Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is a show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between, and at the end of the video, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week, so in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week for a chance to be featured. But let's get started. I had a pretty hefty haul for the most part. It was about 13 books. Number 13 for me is The Moon is Following Us, issue 5. This is a book I want to love because I do normally like Daniel Warren Johnson's writing a lot, especially genres that I normally don't get into. But for this one in particular, the video game aspect, VR style, sci-fi elements of this book really gets me out of it because it's just so not my genre. I get the heart. But this issue in particular, it's a little bit slow. The ending is interesting enough with the daughter's nightmares that show up. But I just don't love the artist who is not Daniel Warren Johnson. It's hard to kind of get into the story. And then on top of the genre not really being for me, I do think I might drop this one. Especially because I don't know if it's a maxi or an ongoing. It feels like an ongoing as well. So to invest in this series for so long, I don't know if it's going to be for me. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12, which is Green Lantern Fractured Spectrum, issue 1. A little surprised this is so low, but with this one, it really was more the art than anything, and that it's kind of this setup one-shot. You don't necessarily need to read this issue to get into Green Lantern Corps or the upcoming Green Lantern issues. It really is a bridge between Absolute Power, the previous stuff going on with Green Lantern, and what's going on with Corps. I do feel like if you have a heavy haul this week, this is one that you can skip. I think for me, part I did like a bit is exploring Sorrow as a character, but I'm sure in that next issue we're going to get a recap of that. And again, the art is really what brought this one down. I just thought it was a little messy for something that had a lot of action and kind of build up to that action. So overall, giving that one 2.5 stars, and that is number 12. Moving on to number 11, which is The Incredible Hulk, issue 21. Your by the numbers issue, we get to see Charlie as a monster and the Werewolf by Midnight teaming up with Hulk and Charlie, and that's mostly the issue. It's very point A to point B. I like seeing Charlie as a monster. I thought that was interesting, but this series hasn't been moving as quickly as I've wanted to. And for something that was so action heavy, again, I think the artwork could have been a little stronger for this one or more haunting for this one. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 11. Moving on to number 10, which is The Friendly Neighborhood SpiderMan issue 2. Another book that's a little confusing because the actual series is not out yet, so I don't really have a level footing of what that series is going to bring outside of what we've seen with Spider-Man before. And that was really my biggest complaint for this, is that it's a very by-the-numbers Spider-Man series. We've seen these stories over and over again, except now Nico's here, but Nico's not even using her magic. She doesn't really add an element besides her name. I want to continue it, but I might just stick with the television show. I don't know if I need the prequel, and I'm not really sure who this is for. I do think this maybe is more for kids who are getting into the show, and that makes me worried that the show is just going to be for kids, where the other cartoons and other Marvel shows have done a better job of making it all ages. But the artwork is really good. I like the brightness of it, and I liked the action for this issue. I just thought the story was very by the numbers. So giving that one 2.5 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, the topic of the video, Ultimate Wolverine issue 1. This is a tough one because I think if you love the beginnings of Wolverine, like his origins, I think you're going to really like this. I think it really depends on what type of story you're looking for. I like this. I want to see where it's going. What I enjoyed about this, and comparing it to Ultimate X-Men feels like a completely different book. It's a manga. You kind of have the namesake of those characters, but the mutant element and what you know about the X-Men is not a big part of that series. It's a very, very different telling of the X-Men. This feels very X-Men. X-Men from the point of view of Wolverine, where we get to see Wolverine being this mysterious character. He's the Winter Soldier, but also Wolverine, and he's killing people like Nightcrawler. And that's cool. I thought that was interesting, but I like character-driven storylines, so to have that more action-driven grittiness, it wasn't as much for me, but I like the elements of adding, again, Nightcrawler, Mystique, and the Rasputins, where I'm like, okay, this could be very different than what we've seen from Wolverine. I also thought the artwork was very pastel-looking, and I don't know if it completely fit for this series. Like, I think you needed a little bit more of an intense, bolder coloring and pencils. But I'm here for the ride. I'm going to stick around until at least issue 3 because we get to see Kitty and Gambit. I want to see what their involvement is. But I don't know if this was a, oh my god, issue 1 just yet. So we're going to see what happens as the series goes on. So I'm going to give that one 3 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Question All Along the Watchtower, issue 3. I like this series a lot because I feel like it's unraveling a bigger DC mystery that honestly I thought bled through in this series and Titans pretty well, where you're like, and Black Lightning, where it's like, maybe you can't trust everything that's going on with the Watchtower. Are people being possessed? Or are they not? There's a lot of interesting mystery and intrigue with the Justice League coming back, and maybe the Justice League not being the most bright and shiny members as we've always seen them to be. And we see that here as well. We get to see Cyborg Superman, so that was kind of a fun cliffhanger. I like the artwork a lot for this. I like Renee's voice, and I like it just being a very different angle, but feeling a little bit bigger for the DC Universe. So overall, giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Black Lightning issue 3. Honestly, I thought the ending is what really picked this up for me. I really like the emotion from Black Lightning as his daughter is kind of being controlled by the Justice League, and right when she's in that moment to trust her dad, she disappears, and the Justice League's like, well, we gotta contain her, and Black Lightning's like, nah, that's my daughter, let's fight. And I'm interested to see where that next issue is gonna go, and how Jefferson's gonna deal with his loyalty to the Justice League, but obviously his family as well. So I thought the ending brought a lot of interesting tension, not just for Black Lightning, but again, the kind of bigger story with absolute power in the Justice League, which is why this ended up being a little higher for me. So giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, you're going to see this as a surprise. This is a bit higher than usual, and that's the Amazing Spider-Man issue 65, Point Death. I really liked this issue for the sake that it felt different to me. Having it from Agent Coulson's point of view, I thought was very interesting. It slowed things down so you could feel emotion a little bit more. I don't know if I still completely agree of where Peter's going and the direction he's going as a character of quitting because of all these debts, and I think Agent Coulson tries to make sense of it in this issue. I do think the artwork could have been a little stronger for this, but I was actually pleasantly surprised. The Point books usually are just filler issues, but they do give you those moments to get into the characters' heads a little bit, and I'm glad they picked someone that wasn't Peter to kind of just give us a new flavor to the series. So overall, giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Laura Kinney, Wolverine, issue 2. I was also really surprised by this one because I didn't know how to feel about a crossover team up in the second issue, but I felt like Elektra and Laura had a really good chemistry, obviously because Erica Schultz writes both characters currently, and I felt like there was a reason for them to both be there, and we have Laura adjusting to New York as well. I just kind of liked their dynamic and was having fun with that along the way. The artwork is really solid for this one too, has good facial expressions and action, so I was pretty pleasantly surprised by this one. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Feral issue 9. If you're looking for a horror book that has its own twist, that's Feral. This is really an issue that feels like a whole zombie attack, right? It's putting on the head of what zombie attacks are. You get to see a lot of these cats having rabies, having this grandma character who's a bad person also have rabies, and the cats having to deal with that. It's a very action-heavy issue, and again, I liked it was a very unique action-heavy issue, and it did something different with horror, all while you're building the tension for the characters. So giving that one 4 stars, and that is I gave that 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Titans, issue 19. I was really pleasantly surprised with this issue. I thought Serg's artwork really tied everything together here. I liked his style a lot, brought a little bit of an anime vibe to it as well. But in this issue, you get a good progression, again, of how the Titans are viewed by the Justice League, how Killer Frost kind of turns back to being a villain because she doesn't trust the Justice League and everything going on in the Watchtower, all while you're still dealing with the ramifications of the last issue or the last series of Raven going evil and now the team having to trust her again. I just thought it had a good balance of action, character-drivenness, and also plot progression that attaches not just to the Titans, but the larger DC universe, which I enjoyed. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Minor Arcana, issue 5. This is a book I feel like is really under the radar. If you like Jeff Lemire, it's Jeff Lemire at his best. Kind of feels very rural, all while telling a really good character story. And this one goes to the sidelines. We're not following our main character anymore. And it's this guy, if I remember correctly, I think it's her father. And we get to follow his life and how he feels like he's stuck, and how he made a bad decision in the end that led to him having an affair, but also killing this woman in a car accident. I just thought the build-up was really nice. I want to see where this attaches, obviously, to the main story, but it was a nice point A to point B kind of filler issue to cleanse your palate to then go back to the main story. And again, hopefully really connect to that main story. So overall, giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, my favorite book, the book I always enjoy the most, and that is Exceptional X-Men, issue 5. I like this one. I do think that this one, again, slows things down a little bit, where we get to see Kitty dealing with her emotions of killing people. I do wish they went a little farther with that. I hope the next issue kind of gets in her head more, but really this is actually the point of view of Tao as well, who is a mutant, has a family who cares for her and doesn't seem to mind that she's a mutant, even has a cousin who's a mutant, and her trying to deal with, okay, I want to be a regular person, but also a good mutant and a good X-Men, and she's really trying to deal with that, as Kitty also is trying to deal with, look at all these things I've done. I thought I had a choice when I was a kid to make the right decisions, and I didn't, and I don't want that to bleed into these other kids, and I thought it was an interesting parallel. Again, it does slow that story down a little bit more, and I don't know if you have the emotional hit as maybe some of those other issues did, but I really thought it was a good character story. I really liked seeing Kitty's background with Krakoa. There's some really good emotional moments between her and Emma, even if it's just a page or two of them kind of, again, dealing with that aftermath of Krakoa, all while tying into this more modern moment with these new kids, with some splendid artwork as well. So overall, giving that 4 stars. That is my pick of the week. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite book was, and the viewer's pick of the week was Snot Girl, and here's some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one.